I've had my share of weird neighborhood rules before. Annoying letters, small fines for wind chimes, that kind of thing. But this one still surprises me. 1 minute, I'm drinking coffee, watching my son swim. The next, a grown man is climbing my fence with big cutters, filming it like he's on TV. And get this, he actually called the police on me for getting in the way in my own yard. If you've ever wondered how much power a little bit of authority can bring, get ready. And hey, after you hear this crazy story, tell me in the comments, has your neighborhood group ever gone crazy too? 3 months ago, my wife, Clara, and I bought what we thought was our perfect house in Willow Creek Estates. It's one of those neat neighborhoods where every lawn looks the same and the rules are super long. The best part for us was the backyard pool. Our son Leo absolutely loves swimming, and I imagined many fun weekends with him there. Clara is a graphic designer, and I work in cybersecurity, looking into online tricks. We thought we had finally found our little piece of suburban paradise. The house had this great oval-shaped pool that Leo loved right away, spending every chance he got practicing his doggy paddle and pretending to be a sea monster. Looking back, I should have known that anything with a neighborhood group would eventually become a nightmare, but at the time, I was just a dad who wanted his child to have a safe place to swim. Last week, everything changed when our neighbor's 5-year-old almost drowned in the community pool down the street. The child had gotten away from his parents for maybe 45 seconds, but that was enough to scare every parent nearby and make us all realize how quickly bad things can happen around water. Clara and I decided right away that we needed better security for our own pool area. After looking at a few models, I chose a Guardian Smart Lock. It was simple, trustworthy, and perfect for making sure Leo couldn't go into the pool area alone. The whole point was to make sure Leo could only go near the pool when Clara or I were there and watching. Installing it took about an hour, and for a few days, I felt like I had done everything a good parent should do to keep his child safe. The community compliance officer arrives. Yesterday morning, that's when Liam Walker first showed up. I was in the kitchen making coffee when I heard voices in the backyard. Through the window, I saw this guy with a clipboard and what looked like an official badge, measuring our pool gate while an older woman watched from nearby. Leo was still inside eating breakfast, but I could tell he was curious about the strangers looking at his swimming area. Liam looked professional with his papers and tools. The woman introduced herself as Carol Walker, the neighborhood group president, and Liam as their community compliance officer. It sounded official enough. Still, something felt wrong. Maybe it was how Liam avoided looking me in the eye, or how Carol kept watching Leo through the window, like she was judging more than just if we followed rules. What seemed strange was how much time Liam spent taking pictures of our security cameras and asking questions about our daily life, not about rule breaking. When do you leave for work in the morning? Do you and your wife travel often? How often does your family use the pool area? Looking back with my cybersecurity training, these should have been big warning signs. But he had official-looking papers and spoke with that tone that makes you think he knows what he's talking about. Liam spent about 20 minutes measuring and taking photos, acting like a detective. He used words that sounded official but didn't quite make sense. Community standards, house-style rules, safety plans. Carol stood there, nodding and taking notes, saying how Liam handles all their technical rule problems with such care and skill. The whole act felt practiced, like they'd done this many times before. Before they left, Liam gave me an official-looking violation notice. It said our smart lock needed approval from the neighborhood group board, and we had 72 hours to get approval or take it off. The notice threatened to remove it by force and add more fees. It seemed harsh for a safety device, but I thought it was just silly paperwork that could be fixed with a phone call. That afternoon, Liam came back with even more official papers. Detailed rules, house-style documents, and a real-looking rulebook. He said the 72-hour deadline was firm, and if we didn't follow it, they would forcefully remove the lock with extra fees for neighborhood group enforcement services. Clara, who was with me, kept giving me warning looks, meaning, don't make enemies with these people. But Liam's overly confident attitude and Carol's smug watch were really starting to annoy me, especially since they kept saying our simple safety device was a danger to the neighborhood's look. Digging into the rules. That night, after Leo was asleep, I did what any cybersecurity fraud investigator would do. I took out our neighborhood group rules and started reading every part about house changes and community standards. What I found was interesting. Deep in the rules, a part clearly said child safety devices did not need approval beforehand. Bingo. I also couldn't find any proof Liam was an actual employee of the neighborhood group. No pay records, no job title, nothing that would give him the right to enter private property or give out notices. My professional instincts were screaming. So, I put in backup cameras pointing at the pool area. My cybersecurity background taught me to record everything when something feels wrong. I had no idea that Liam Walker was about to give me video proof of crimes I didn't even know were possible, and that my simple pool safety device was going to expose a criminal plan that had been happening for months. What he did next? Let's just say filming your own crimes live isn't what they teach in How to Be a Criminal Mastermind school. The live stream breakdown. The next morning, right on time, I found another official violation notice in my mailbox. This one had even scarier words about obeying right away and more fees. The next afternoon, I'm watching from my kitchen window as Liam climbs my fence with what looked like a full video setup. Phone, tripod, professional lights, everything. Authorized enforcement action in progress, he announced to his camera like he was hosting his own reality show. Authorized by who? I wondered, grabbing my coffee and getting ready to watch this crazy show. I should have been really angry, but I was just amazed, like watching a slow-motion car crash. At 11:00 in the morning, I made a big show of leaving for a work meeting, making sure Liam saw me drive away. By 1:00, he was back with a nervous-looking friend and that phone setup, ready to broadcast what he thought was an educational video. I parked around the corner and walked back through a neighbor's yard to watch from inside. From my kitchen window, I had a perfect view of Liam talking to his phone camera with full confidence. His live stream banner read, "Community Justice Live." This homeowner ignored our rule notice, Liam explained to his audience. So now we're going to show how to properly remove unapproved pool security devices. His friend looked like he wished he was anywhere else, asking questions like, "Dude, are you sure this is legal?" But Liam just waved him off, sure of his own power, even if it was made up. I have the right to enforce rules, Liam told both his friend and his live stream audience while taking out bolt cutters and a professional toolkit. Watch and learn how we deal with homeowners who don't follow rules. The whole act was so confident, so professional looking, that for a moment I almost wondered if I had misunderstood something. But then I remembered my cybersecurity training and the fact that I was watching someone commit many serious crimes while filming them live. My coffee burned my tongue as I stepped outside. I walked into my own backyard while Liam was still filming. He didn't look caught at all. He just smoothly turned to explain the situation to his viewers, like I was some unfriendly person getting in the way. "Liam," I said, trying to keep my voice calm, even though I was watching someone take apart my property. "What gives you the right to be in my yard?" He turned the camera toward me and announced, "Homeowner getting in the way of proper community enforcement." This is exactly the kind of resistance we find. A click wasn't loud, but it cut through the chaos. My son, Leo, had wandered outside. I moved faster than I thought possible, stepping between him and Liam. "Go back inside, sweetie," I said, keeping my eyes on Liam's fake badge. "Turn off the camera and show me your real authority," I said, but Liam just kept filming. "This is my authority," he replied, pointing to his badge and clipboard. "Community standards enforcement. I have full power to remove unauthorized devices." Our elderly neighbor, Mrs. Albright, watched from her fence with a confused look. The police arrive. That's when Liam made the call that changed everything. Still live streaming, still totally sure of his made-up power, he called 911 on me for stopping him from stealing in my backyard. I couldn't decide if I was insulted or just amazed by his delusion. "Emergency services," he said into his phone while telling his audience what was happening. "I need help for a community enforcement situation." To his viewers, he explained, "Watch how we handle homeowners who try to get in the way of official neighborhood group business." To the dispatcher, he said, "This is Liam Walker, Community Standards Inspector for Willow Creek Estates Neighborhood Association. I'm doing an approved enforcement action, removing an illegal pool device, and the homeowner is being mean and stopping me from doing my job." "Are you seriously calling the cops on me?" I asked, truly shocked that someone would call the police while on my property without permission and stealing my things, while filming himself committing crimes. Liam just nodded. "When homeowners stop official community business," he explained to his camera, "we have set ways to make sure rules are followed. This device is a possible safety danger that needs to be taken off right away." Detective Miller arrived about 10 minutes later with an officer. Liam greeted them like they were there to help him. "Thank God you're here, officers," he said while still talking to his live stream audience. Recording in progress. Homeowner fighting against official community enforcement action. He showed them his badge, forms, and tools, explaining proper procedures. The act was so confident, so professional-looking, that I could see the officers trying to figure out if they were dealing with a real official or a criminal. Detective Miller had that look experienced officers get when something doesn't quite add up. "Son," she said to Liam, "turn off that camera and explain exactly what right you have to be on this gentleman's private property." Liam looked confused, but he complied, keeping his phone ready. "This is official proof of community standards enforcement," he explained. "I'm removing an illegal pool device following set neighborhood group rules and safety plans." "Sir," Detective Miller said after looking at Liam's papers, "neighborhood groups can fine homeowners. They cannot give anyone permission to enter private property without the owner's permission, and they definitely cannot authorize taking personal property." "But I have full enforcement power," Liam protested. His confidence started to crack. "Community standards need active enforcement. That's literally my job as inspector." "You mean I was actually trespassing?" Liam asked, his confusion almost sad. "But my mom said I had full power to do community inspections and remove violations." As Liam was handcuffed, he kept protesting. "I have enforcement power. I've done this 40 times. Detective Miller stopped. "40 times? You've entered 40 different properties thinking you had power?" That's when I realized my pool lock wasn't Liam's first target. Not even close. 40 enforcement actions," Liam said proudly from the back of the police car, bragging about his work. Detective Miller looked from Liam to me to Carol Walker, who had just arrived, realizing this was more serious than she thought. "Ma'am," Detective Miller said to Carol, politely but firmly, "your son says he has entered 40 private properties this year, believing he had the right to enforce rules." Carol's face changed colors as she processed this, but her voice stayed smooth. "Officers, my son is just very dedicated. He takes community rules seriously. Sometimes a little too seriously, maybe." She pulled out a thick folder of official-looking papers. But Detective Miller had dealt with this kind of official cover-up before. "Ma'am," Detective Miller said after looking through Carol's folder, "I don't see any employment records here for your son. No pay records, no official job description, no training certificates that would let him enter private property. What I see is a lot of papers about your group's right to fine homeowners, but nothing that gives anyone permission to trespass or take personal belongings." Carol's jaw tightened. "Liam doesn't do anything without my clear permission," she insisted. "We maintain the highest community standards, and that needs quick action to enforce rules and safety concerns." Liam was still fully helping the police, convinced that once they understood his work, they'd apologize. He had color-coded lists, charts, follow-up dates. What Liam thought was proof of his care was actually a full admission of months of systematic criminal activity. Detective Miller flipped through pages of what any normal person would see as documented trespassing, stealing, and threats. He was acting like a one-man neighborhood group SWAT team. "We'll be looking into all 40 of these cases," Detective Miller told Carol, sounding threateningly calm. "If your son has been entering private properties without homeowner permission, we're looking at many counts of trespassing at the very least, plus theft charges for any property taken or fees collected. We've already gotten several complaints about someone matching your son's description acting as a fake inspector, and this paperwork suggests a planned pattern of criminal activity." Carol's calm finally broke. "These aren't criminal violations," she snapped. "These are proper community standards, enforcement actions done with full board power to protect property values and neighborhood safety. Liam has complete permission to deal with rule breaks and collect proper fines and fees." I admit, I was still giving Carol the benefit of the doubt. I thought she was a well-meaning leader who'd lost control of her son. But Detective Miller clearly had more experience with people who hide criminal activity behind official titles. The truth unravels. After the police left with Liam in custody, Carol tried one last thing with me, trying to sound reasonable while making threats. "Mr. Thompson," she said with a worried look that didn't quite reach her eyes, "I hope this bad event doesn't hurt our community relationships. Some residents prefer peace over fighting, and it would be really bad if this situation got worse." "Peace over fighting," she said. I'd heard that line in mafia movies. But I've spent years looking into online fraud, so I understand threats. And this wasn't my first time dealing with people who confuse official positions with real power. That evening, I decided to take a walk around the neighborhood. That's when our elderly neighbor, Mrs. Albright, came up to me. "Oliver," she whispered, looking around. "That boy has been taking things from people for months, from lawn chairs to ceramic bird baths. If it wasn't nailed down, Liam would take it. He took my neighbor's porch swing, said it wasn't up to code. We never got it back." "How many people are we talking about?" I asked. "Maybe 30 families, maybe more," she explained. "He always had those official papers and that badge, and he talked exactly like police officers do on television. Most people just paid whatever fines he asked for, rather than argue with someone who seemed to have government power behind him. We were all too scared to complain because we thought he was real, and we'd get in trouble for questioning official community business. That's when I realized this wasn't about one troubled young man. This was about something much bigger and more organized. If Liam had been systematically scaring 30 families into paying fake fines, where was all that money going? Our community looked exactly the same as it had 8 months ago when Liam supposedly started his rule enforcement. Same potholes, same broken streetlights, same promised playground fix that never happened despite many extra payments. Walking back to my house, my cybersecurity investigator instincts kicked in hard. I was starting to see the outlines of a fraud plan that was much cleverer than I had first thought. They weren't just stealing from families. They were selling fear. And business was good. And this time, I wasn't just protecting my pool. I was about to take apart their whole fake empire, one made-up fine at a time. The scale of the scam. I almost dropped my coffee when Detective Miller called. "Mr. Thompson," she said, "we've spent the past day talking to residents throughout your neighborhood. Your pool lock situation was just the start of what we're dealing with here." "What exactly are we talking about?" I asked. 30 families, Mr. Thompson. Your neighbor, Liam Walker, has been systematically stealing from 30 families over the past 8 months, and most of them never reported it because they truly believed he had real power. Garden gnomes disappeared. Trampolines vanished. Fake permits were demanded. Same trick, different houses. What made this plan so incredibly effective was Liam's absolutely perfect way of acting like a real authority figure. He didn't look or act like someone trying to trick you. He looked exactly like what you'd expect a community standards inspector to look like if such a job actually existed. A professional badge that looked real enough to fool anyone not trained in spotting fake IDs. An official clipboard with real-looking forms, legal-sounding language that copied real government officials' words. He carefully chose vulnerable people too. Older residents who respected authority, families where English wasn't the main language, new homeowners who didn't know which rules were normal. They all said the same thing. The badge looked real, the words sounded legal, and they were too scared or confused to say no. The Chopra family said, "We couldn't afford any kind of legal fight with the neighborhood group. It seemed much easier and safer to just pay the fee and follow the rules rather than risk bigger fines." Detective Miller explained that Liam's success rate was incredibly high from a criminal point of view. Nearly everyone he targeted paid whatever he asked for. Liam wasn't just making things up. He had a system, scripts, follow-ups, even friendly visits. He kept incredibly detailed records of every meeting, payment, threat, and follow-up like he was running a real business. The amount of money involved was shocking. Over 8 months, Liam had systematically collected about 25, zero in fake fines, made-up removal fees, and totally fictional penalties from trusting families. That's not small neighborhood trouble. That's a big fraud operation. And here's what really made me angry. Even though all this money was collected supposedly for community improvements and safety, our neighborhood looked exactly the same. All the payments went to something called the Community Standards Fund, managed only by Carol Walker with no one checking on it. No community input, no transparency, and no accountability. The playground renovation that justified several thousand in extra payments never happened. The improved gardens and security measures that people had paid extra for were nowhere to be seen. Detective Miller explained that they were now treating this as a major organized fraud case. The targeting of vulnerable residents, the professional act, the planned money collection, the detailed records, everything pointed to a deliberate criminal operation. Liam had even kept expansion plans, with notes about offering similar enforcement advice to nearby communities and making his operation bigger. In less than a year, Liam had turned our sunny suburb into a paranoid neighborhood association theft ring, and Carol was at the top, collecting money from fear. He didn't just take money, he stole peace. And we didn't notice because we were too busy following rules he made up. Children couldn't play freely. Older residents were afraid to garden. New families felt unwelcome. Liam and his mother had turned our quiet neighborhood into a stressful police state, exposing the conspiracy. That evening, Mrs. Albright showed me a shoebox full of receipts and notes from Liam detailing fees and costs. 30 families, 25, 0 in documented theft. Then she asked the question that completely changed how I understood this. Oliver, where do you think all that money actually went? Because I've lived here for 15 years, and it looks exactly the same as it did 8 months ago when that boy started his so-called enforcement work. I stared at those receipts and realized we weren't just dealing with a young man who had gone too far. Someone had been systematically stealing from an entire neighborhood. That Friday, we spread 30 wrinkled receipts across my dining room table like detectives at a crime scene. The numbers didn't lie. We traced where every penny had gone and found out who was responsible. My neighbor, Mrs. Albright, a retired bookkeeper, and I made a good team. What we found was going to turn our entire community upside down. The first big warning sign was obvious. Even though Liam collected 25-0, our community had received 0 visible improvements. On paper, we had paid for playgrounds and security. In reality, nothing but empty promises and Carol's signature. Every expense was approved only by Carol. Every transaction went through accounts she controlled with no one else checking. Then we found it. Liam's big plan. A neighborhood group scam franchise. Templates, scripts, target families, a franchise of fear, and Carol was the CEO. According to Liam's notes, his mother had approved his regional coordinator promotion and helped him create the professional look, official papers, and scare tactics. The plan included templates for fake inspector IDs, scripts for scaring homeowners, and steps for getting the most money while reducing the chance of victims reporting to real authorities. I wasn't just showing fraud. I was pulling the mask off a woman who had ruled our neighborhood like a quiet dictator. This had to be public. Private talks can be denied, public ones can't. This needed witnesses. If we were going to expose this, it had to happen in front of the entire community where Carol couldn't control the story. Saturday evening, we packed our community center with 85% of the neighborhood's residents, the highest attendance ever. I presented our findings like a cybersecurity fraud investigation, documented money problems, victim stories, physical proof, and a clear timeline. Mrs. Albright provided the detailed money analysis that showed exactly where community money had gone and why promised improvements never happened. 8 families stood up to share their experiences with Liam's fake enforcement. The pattern was heartbreaking. Older residents scared into paying fines for made-up rules, immigrant families charged fees for non-existent permits, young parents forced to choose between bogus penalties or bigger legal problems. Every story followed the same script: professional appearance, official-looking papers, scary words, and immediate demands for payment. Carol's defense was weak. Liam acted completely on his own, she claimed, despite papers showing her direct involvement. The board has full power to enforce rules, she argued, unaware that power doesn't include theft, threats, and fraud. All community funds have been properly managed, she insisted, while residents saw how improperly they had been managed and stolen. Detective Miller arrived during the meeting with a warrant for Carol's financial records. The timing was perfect. We had already shown the evidence publicly. The entire community had seen the fraud. Victims had shared their stories, and now law enforcement was taking official action. Carol tried to act innocent, but even her supporters abandoned her. The community vote was absolutely unanimous. Remove Carol from the board immediately. Demand full repayment for all victims. Pursue criminal charges to the fullest extent possible and implement full financial transparency. When the vote was cast, the applause shook the walls. Carol didn't just lose her seat. She lost the illusion of power she'd clung to. People weren't just angry about being robbed. They were relieved that the mystery of Liam's unlimited authority was solved. Justice served. Saturday evening, Carol's house went completely dark, and a moving truck appeared. She was planning to flee. Sunday morning, Detective Miller called with news that changed this case from neighborhood drama to serious criminal prosecution. Mr. Thompson, we've traced every penny of the stolen money. Carol Walker didn't just know about Liam's fake enforcement. She planned it, directed it, and profited from every single theft. 40-0 stolen using her son as the weapon. She's looking at serious prison time, and this case is going to federal court. Monday morning, I watched from my kitchen window as police officers searched Carol Walker's house. She stood on her lawn, screaming about being unfairly targeted. Her perfect hedges couldn't hide the panic. For months, she'd strutted around like a suburban queen. Now she was just another defendant. The irony wasn't lost on me that someone who'd scared families with fake power was now learning what real power looked like. Boxes of financial records, computers, and documents were carried out, proof of systematic fraud she couldn't deny. The financial investigation showed a criminal enterprise far more complex and planned than anyone had imagined. Carol hadn't just allowed or missed Liam's activities. She had designed, directed, and personally profited from every part. The total amount stolen over 18 months was exactly 40-0. Liam's fake enforcement took 25-0. But Carol had also created fake special payments for community improvements that never happened, collecting an additional 15-0. The bank records showed systematic personal use of community funds for vacations, car payments, home improvements, and family business expenses. Carol had been treating our neighborhood group like her personal bank account for over a year, confident her position would protect her. What made this infuriating was the proof showing how deliberate it had been. Emails from Carol's computer showed detailed plans with Liam about who to target, how much to demand, what threats worked best, and how to present fake authority. Liam wasn't an out-of-control son. He was a weapon his mother had carefully made and used against vulnerable neighbors. There was even a training manual on how to handle homeowners who resisted. It read like a con artist's guide. Detective Miller explained that Liam's continued help was valuable because he still genuinely believed he'd been performing a legitimate service. He didn't seem evil, just easily influenced. His willingness to provide detailed information and meticulous records gave prosecutors everything needed for an airtight case against both. The criminal charges were serious. Carol was facing multiple felony counts, including theft of 40-0, conspiracy to commit fraud, filing false financial reports, and abusing her position. Liam was facing 30-plus counts of criminal trespassing, 25-0 in theft charges, pretending to be a government official, and conspiracy to commit fraud. The evidence was so extensive, plea bargaining wasn't an option. The systematic nature of the crimes, the targeting of vulnerable residents, the sophisticated planning, and the attempts to expand the operation all supported maximum charges and serious prison sentences. What really sealed the case against Carol was Liam's business expansion documents, which included plans for franchising their fake enforcement operation to nearby neighborhood groups, complete with profit projections. They hadn't just been stealing from Willow Creek Estates. They'd been developing a scalable criminal enterprise with regional ambitions that could have harmed hundreds more families. You could map it like a war zone. 30 houses hit, 40-0 gone, trust broken. Carol's legal defense was pathetic. She tried blaming Liam, but emails proved her direct involvement. She claimed ignorance about money, but her signature was on every fraudulent transaction, and her personal accounts received every stolen dollar. She argued that neighborhood group boards have power, unaware that it doesn't include systematic theft. The prosecution wasn't interested in plea deals. The evidence supported maximum penalties. The community demanded full accountability. Detective Miller assured us both would face serious prison time, full repayment, and consequences to stop them from harming other communities. The final court hearing was set for the next month. The outcome was clear. The judge reviewed everything. 40-0 stolen, 30 families harmed, 18 months of planned crime, and plans to expand the fraud. Carol's lawyer made one last attempt to call it community service gone wrong, but the prosecutor's response was devastating. Your Honor, this was organized theft, disguised as neighborhood management, and these defendants deserve the full consequences. 6 months later, justice was delivered. Liam Walker received 18 months in state prison, plus full repayment of 25-0 to his victims, plus 3 years of probation, plus orders stopping him from contacting victims. Carol Walker received 4 years in state prison, plus full repayment of 40-0 plus 5 years of probation, plus a lifelong ban from neighborhood group management, plus permanent loss of her professional licenses. Our smart lock is still working perfectly, now protected under new rules that support safety technology. Leo loves his weekend pool time, unaware his safety device helped uncover a criminal plan. Justice? Sometimes the system works. The sentences were everything we hoped for. The judge made it clear that fraud disguised as community service deserved serious consequences. The courtroom was silent. I didn't cheer, but I exhaled like I hadn't in months. Justice didn't always look like fireworks. Sometimes it looked like two people walking out of a courtroom in cuffs. A new beginning. The money recovered was more than anyone expected. Our community recovered 34, 0 of the 40, 0 stolen. The remaining 60 was covered by a victim help fund from our newly elected neighborhood group board, ensuring every family received full repayment and compensation for emotional trauma. Mrs. Albright got her 200 back, plus replacement garden gnomes, and a formal apology. The Davies family recovered 800 and bought a bigger trampoline for their kids, who could finally play without fear. The Chopra family got 600 back, and their basketball hoop approved under new rules. Our new neighborhood group board was elected within 30 days of Carol's removal, with full openness and responsibility as the main principals. I was elected treasurer. My cybersecurity background meant I knew how to spot fraud early, and the community trusted me to implement oversight to prevent another Carol Walker situation. The new rules removed all enforcement power beyond standard fine collection through legal channels. They required community approval for any spending over 500, mandated monthly financial reports, and explicitly protected residents' rights to install safety devices and technology that helped the community. Never again would anyone terrorize families with fake power or steal community funds. The community changed remarkably once people no longer lived in fear. Children played in yards again. Older residents resumed gardening and decorating. New families felt welcomed. Property values increased 8% over the next year, partly due to better financial management, but mostly because word spread that Willow Creek Estates had eliminated corruption and established real community governance. Leo never fully understood what happened, but he knew the mean man who tried to take away his pool lock was gone and couldn't hurt our family or neighbors anymore. Every Saturday, we continued our father-son swimming, and I'd watch that smart lock blink green, knowing the technology I'd installed for his safety had protected our entire community. The good effects spread far beyond our neighborhood. Local news coverage prompted financial checks in 7 other communities, finding similar fraud schemes in 3, and preventing more criminal activity. Our story became a warning about community involvement, financial oversight, and holding elected officials accountable. Liam's prison experience was reportedly helpful. He took business classes, had therapy, and slowly began to realize how his mother had manipulated him. Whether he'll build a legitimate life remains to be seen, but he's getting real education about legal power versus fraudulent power. Carol's downfall was complete. Her house was sold to pay victims. Her retirement savings were taken. Her professional licenses were permanently revoked. She learned about real consequences in state prison. The technology being proven right was especially satisfying. Our smart lock became a symbol of homeowner rights, child safety, and questioning fake authority. The new neighborhood rules clearly protect residents' rights to install safety devices and technology that helps the community. Mrs. Albright became our community's unofficial historian, documenting lessons learned and teaching new residents to recognize warning signs. Her shoebox of receipts was donated to the district attorney's office as a training example. She started a neighborhood watch program focused on financial oversight, which was much more effective. Last month, a young family moved into Carol's former house. Their first home improvement project was installing a smart lock identical to ours on their pool gate. The approval took 24 hours with zero hassle and full community support. Mrs. Albright brought out her gnomes again. The Davies kids bounced higher than ever. The Chopra father hosted a basketball game for the whole block. For the first time in months, we were more than just neighbors. We were survivors of the same storm. The new system was working exactly as it should, protecting families. Every weekend, I watch Leo run to our pool while the smart lock beeps its approval. I think about how defending your family's safety sometimes means defending everyone's rights against people who abuse trust. Every month, when our detailed financial reports arrive, I remember how far we've come. Every time a new neighbor asks about our drama-free community leadership, I smile and share the story of how we learned to hold officials accountable. Last Saturday, Leo asked while floating in the pool, "Daddy, why did that bad man try to take our lock away?" I watched the smart lock blink green, keeping him safe. I gave him the same answer I'd give any adult. Because he forgot that our home is our castle, sweetheart, and nobody has the right to take away the things that keep our family safe. But now everyone in our neighborhood remembers that, and we make sure it never happens again. He dove beneath the water, free and fearless. I stood with coffee in hand, watching the ripples spread. That's what truth does. It shakes things up, but it brings peace in the end. And that's the complete story about how Liam Walker called the police on me for stopping him from stealing my smart lock while he was live streaming his own trespassing in my backyard. The craziest part? He truly had no idea he was committing crimes until Detective Miller explained property rights to him. It turns out that my mom runs the neighborhood group, doesn't stop basic legal ideas like permission, private property, and the difference between real authority and made-up power. Liam learned what trespassing means in prison. Carol learned that stealing money carries serious consequences. I learned that defending your pool sometimes means defending your entire community against systematic corruption.